Gentlemen. This is Shay Matthews, in-game technician for the Natural Lifestyles. And we're kicking off a new program today called Radical in a Game. So we're going to be hosting and speaking about lots of interesting topics. And today I've got the awesome and very powerful Mr. Tony Solo. What's up, man?
Hey guys. Hey man, what's up?
Great to have you on board, man. Always love chatting with you. And I guess today we had a bit of an idea that we wanted to talk about some ideas about what does it mean to become a free and open man, and what does it mean to really stand in your presence in the world? Because oftentimes there's a lot of ideas about what that means, or it might sound a little bit wooey or fluffy or hippie or whatever, but in reality it's actually a very practical and efficient way to move in the world. So I want to hear about like some of your ideas, because I know like you're a really good embodiment of that, and you've been doing a lot of study in terms of what that means for you. So share a little bit about what your theory is at this stage and what you've been experiencing.
So basically at this stage I've been experiencing what it means to open as a man. And this is something that David Deida talks about a lot in his books, and I've been reading his books religiously and listening to his audios. And something that really resonates with me and at this stage of my life and my own growth spiritually is opening the world into love. Now this is one of the priorities of the masculine that a lot of men don't know, is that it's important for us to open the world into love. Not just women, but at the same time women, because women is life. Because the feminine is life force. And life force is everything that we can see, touch, taste, everything like that. Is the feminine. So it's all about opening the world into love. That's the reason why he says that if you can handle your woman, you can handle the world, because the world is your woman and the woman is the world. So opening as a man is literally about making sure that your heart remains open at the times where you want to clench up and you want to be closed and you want to be very, very conservative in the way that you're acting or speaking. These are all constraints on what it is to be a man in this world. Because a man is freedom. And a man being freedom, that's what a man is always going to seek. He's always going to seek situations and things that's going to allow him to consistently open and stay free. That's why man we love when we things like sports, things that got to do with hard things that allows us to open into freedom. So it's like, you kill the people, but then that opens you into freedom. You go, you run, you take the football, you run down the field, you get into the end zone, you open into freedom. You take the last shot of the game and you make it. Now you feel like this sense of open into freedom, because you felt so constrained and closed down. So this is what it means to open into the world as a man. And our priority is to open the world into love, because we are the, so to speak, the gods of the world that can open the goddess, which is the world, into love. And that's what the world and your woman always wants to feel. She always wants to feel the flow of her love. Because that's her place of strength.
Beautiful.
So that's one of the things that I've been going on about opening.
Yeah, I love that, and I think like what a great way to open this show. So just following on from that, because I can totally relate to what you're talking about in my experiences of relationships and the journeys that I've been through in terms of tantric opening and understanding of the world through lots of different practices and things over the years. And I think to bring it back to a really grounded level for guys, like to really reflect what you're saying, in a way, it's kind of about like building a mythology that works. So when I say a mythology, what does that mean? I mean, it's about having a narrative about how to operate in the world that brings you into alignment with what I call principles of integrity. So for example, like in a man, there is a certain like natural primary nature that operates according to the masculine function within him. And there's a certain primary feminine nature that women have that operates according to their feminine function. And as we know, we're kind of regurgitating a little bit of data stuff here, which is fine. But to build on that, it is very natural and normal for both sexes to have both masculine and feminine natures within them. But oftentimes there's a lot of confusion, I think, in our world about like, what does it really mean to be a man? What does it really mean to relate to the feminine? What does it mean to be a feminine? What does it mean to relate to the masculine as the feminine? So definitely like defining those relationships inside yourself and going through training and experiences that take you into like a literal embodied state of understanding what that means is probably one of the most powerful journeys I think like any man can go through if he wants to live in the world as a successful man, not just with women, but just in general in terms of fulfillment and happiness and the ability to navigate, basically.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like I want to just reiterate that a little bit more because there's so much we could say on this. That for a guy that's coming into the so-called pickup community, guys that are interested in getting better with women, often the context of approaching that journey is coming from what I would call like a typical cultural consensus view of development. So what I mean by that is they're basically coming from what they know according to what the culture has basically programmed them to think a successful man is. So, and you've been on this journey, I've been on this journey, we've seen like hundreds and hundreds of guys on this journey over our sort of time, and it's like, on the surface, it's like, it's have big muscles, make some money, have an authority in your life, be significant, have stylish clothes, say smooth lines, be confident. But what a lot of guys miss in a way is that if they're not really in alignment with their internal core, and if they're not really like open to like operating from that essence within themselves of the power of their true masculine selves, then it's kind of just a show, it's kind of like a mask that's built on a bit of a false foundation. And sooner or later it comes crumbling down, whether that guy, it even ends up, some guys get really successful with women by putting on the kind of alpha behaviors and things like that. But oftentimes they'll either attract other women that are kind of the opposite reflection of that. So they attract women that are kind of got masks on as well. So it's a little bit of a woman trying to be her fake feminine to be attractive as well. Or also what may happen in that process is a guy might fall into a long-term relationship for a period of time, and then cracks start to form in his foundation of his relationship to the world, because being in a true relationship of love and openness to the world requires that you have correct relationships of integrity within yourself. And that's not even something that is a one-time deal. That's a constant practice inside yourself that comes with attention and attentiveness and awareness and cultivating that presence inside yourself, which it's something that you hold so well and represent so well to guys when you teach. So I really just wanted to bring it into that frame of recognizing that as a guy approaches this journey, he's coming from what he's known according to the typical culture. And it is a bit of a jump and a leap of faith to move out of that level and to start to open your mind to something different. So, and I think it's important to put this out there because a lot of guys might be listening and just be like, what? What is presence? Like, what's he talking about? Like being a god, and like, this sounds like weird. But the reality of it is that way of talking and thinking about the world, as I said before, it's a mythology. And what's a mythology? Like, in some ways, a mythology is like it's a story that we use to describe things. And on a level we can say, it's just a myth, and we sort of have this thing of like, a myth means it's somehow false, or it's somehow like just a bunch of stories or words that don't really have any real meaning in the world. But on another level, a myth provides a very powerful metaphorical context to understand like dynamics and relationships in the world that we're engaged with as we move through the world. So I think that's really important. And we're basically like, I'm impressed, man, because I expected this to happen as soon as we would have this conversation. We would drop into high level concepts. So we're certainly not talking on kindergarten levels here. But at the same time, I think that's good because part of what I really want to focus on with these conversations and with this radio show is taking it to the level where guys are really looking for the next level shit. Like what is the what's the Jedi level stuff, you know? What's the real level stuff that's out there? Because it's all well and good to start at a superficial level, which we totally understand that, and we support that, and we do also provide training and understanding of those foundation levels. But sooner or later, there needs to be engagement with that internal framework and stepping into those principles of really moving in the world as a man of love. So yeah, that's what I got to say about that. Like, anything you want to add or reflect on that?
Yes. Everything you, that's why I love these talks with you, because every time you say something, it brings up something else in me. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to go back to when you said the fake, I think you said the fake shine or the fake glow in women.
Fake mask, yeah.
Oh, the fake mask, yes. That just brought me back to men understanding that when they come into seduction, that they are searching a lot of times. This is what men, they'll start to come and notice after they have come into seduction. They've been with a lot of women in seduction, and now they can move to a higher level within themselves, because usually they come in and the first level is women, get the prettiest ones, have sex with the prettiest ones, get the validation that you're worthy enough to have sex with the prettiest ones. Then, now what? It's like that. It's like they're waiting for this relaxation of, now I could just relax. Now I'm the man, I can get the women I want, and now they feel like they don't have to go any higher.
Yeah.
So that's what a lot of guys come in this for. They come in for the relaxation of, all right, I'm good with women. It's just like that. That's just like the relaxation that guys come in here for. And I always challenge men to stop seeking relaxation, because as the man in this world, it's difficult every single day if you're opening the world into love, and this is something that's going to be difficult to the end of time, because the feminine will crush you in the end. That's what's going to happen. Life force will crush men in the end. It will. That's the reason why women are actually more powerful than men, as far as like the force of life is more powerful than us. So not to make a man seem like, oh shit, girls are powerful. No, not in the sense of like strength and things like that, but they're life force. So life force is the strongest thing around. So I wanted to talk about the fake shine that women can have, and it could definitely make men, and it definitely does make men act and say certain things that they don't need to, that actually pulls them away from their core, because they're seeing her so much in this light, because they're seeing her through a lens instead of just seeing her in present moment freshness. And present moment freshness is opening. You can only see a woman in present moment freshness when you're opening the world into love. So I was just out with a student. I was teaching a guy the other night, and I'm constantly telling him to open. I'm like, the reason why these women look intimidating, the reason why they look like they are this shining thing when you look at them, is because you're looking at them through a lens. You have to see them in present moment freshness for you to see them for who they are. And this is like this is the next level when it comes to approaching, because guys approach because they're looking at her through a lens. But the next level after that many guys only come to, a small percentage of guys come to, is to let up the lens on the shine that you're seeing, to see her for who she is in a present moment, to see if she actually is shining. That's the thing about it. Like, guys look at girls like, oh my gosh, she's pretty, and when they do that, literally they built this image and all these things around her before they even know who she is, and they already have all this value attached to this woman. When that means that they are what? They're closed off from the present moment of who she is. And that's what I wanted to talk to, what I wanted to say things about, is understanding that real shine from a woman shines from her core. It doesn't shine physically. She can physically look good, because there's many women who walk around physically and look very fucking good. But it's the women who shine from their core who can move the world, who can move men, who can get a man to literally like not know what to say. Like these are the women that are like that. But a man could actually have an illusion of a woman being that if he has a lens up. And that's why some guys are running out of things to say and things like that, because they're actually looking at the woman and interacting with her through a lens of illusion. And now they're seeing her as if she's that other girl who's the really, really fucking great girl as far as like her radiance. They're seeing this girl and they're seeing the illusion of radiance. And that's what scares men a lot. It scares men because you close down actually when you stop seeing her in present moment freshness. That's why opening is so important, because you close down, and now when you close down, you go inside and you go in your mind and you start, and it all happens so quickly that you don't even, it's unconscious. You would have to be aware of yourself doing it and closing down for you to be able to see her in present moment freshness. So seeing a woman in present moment freshness is actually have to do with your breathing. That's what that's how actually, and then that in itself brings us to the next topic of Felix presence. So that's what I wanted to say with the superficial shine. And
that's so beautiful, man. That's beautiful, and I can totally add to that and reflect on that yet again. It's just like dancing with you, man. I love these chats. Basically, I think in our nature, what we're really craving for is to be seen and experienced in our full presence, in our full empowerment. Like both men and women want to be seen and acknowledged and loved for who they are and their core being, And part of the reason why these masks form in the first place is because, for whatever reason, there wasn't enough permission or support or allowance for like a healthy self-image and a healthy sense of being to come into the world and manifest as radiance for the woman, or as that confident power as a man. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge that and recognize that pretty much everybody has some levels of traumas that they're dealing with, like some levels of disconnections from their true inner core on their journeys in life. I mean, we all have periods of time where we feel disconnected for different reasons, some more than others. And some people have more support and more resources than others. Just the same as you can look at a forest, for example, and some plants get seeded in poor soil and they don't get much sun, they don't get much water, so they don't have the potential, they do have the potential, but they don't have the same support to grow into a full, strong plant compared to a plant that has sunlight and good soil and space, for example. But if you look at it also, I think this is a really important point to add to what you said, all women have the potential to be beautifully radiant within them. And all women are actually goddesses, like latent goddesses, and some more than others. And just the same as, on a relative scale, all seeds, all acorns hold the potential for a great oak tree within them, but it depends on, like I said, the circumstances and support. Now, humans are a little bit more complicated than plants. So we have more possibilities and more choice to be able to change ourselves and to recontextualize how we see the world and create relationships of meaning with the world. So once again, what that means is that we can change our orientation to things. We can change our direction, we can change our purpose, we can change our beliefs. And I think, once again, that's really important to acknowledge. So when you're moving in the world, searching for these radiant women, be very careful that you're not creating another lens of, oh, she's not radiant enough, or I'm not gonna approach her because she is obviously not inviting me with her radiance, kind of thing. Just the same as it's not very fair, and it doesn't feel very good for a guy when a woman says to a man, "Oh, you're not present enough, you're not man enough, you're not powerful enough." But the catch-22 is, or the chicken and the egg scenario that can happen, is that when you step into presence and you step into the principles of integrity and you start manifesting what you call like openness in love, which I think is a beautiful way to describe it, then there's almost like an activating or a potentiating force that comes out of you as a present man. So, and I know you've had tons of these experiences, and so have I. It's like when you're in those alignments, you have this more or less magical capacity to pull women into presence that are prepared and ready to make that jump. And they're like, I think for a vast majority of women, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it, they are really craving that. They really want to be open, they want to be seen in their full presence, and this is just a funny side story, for example, but like last night I was hanging out with a couple of girls, and we ended up getting on a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole. And one of the things that actually came up, because I was showing them some other videos, is it showed up on the Natural channel, was your latest video on the 3 tips for being an animalistic lover. And so I showed them that. And man, what a beautiful, heartfelt, like direct way to say those points. I thought it was really beautiful. And the irony is that the discussion that was going on with those girls a few hours previous to watching that video was, man, I wish there was more confident guys. Like, I keep just getting these guys and they don't know how to lead and they don't know how to be present and they don't know how to tell me what they want. And, you know, I've seen this guy recently and he didn't know how to make a move on me and it was awkward and he was trying to be a nice guy and like kind of make love to me. But at the same time, it spoiled the moment because it was all really shy and wasn't clear and all that kind of stuff. So they were openly voicing, like hours before, I think that, that's what they really wanted. And then when they watched your video, what I watched and what I was interested in was like, I could see within them there was all these like stirrings of like cultural programming started to come up, where all of a sudden, where they were watching you and they were sitting in the room with me and they could all of a sudden, they were feeling the presence of the fact that there are men in the world that are actually really close that can pull them into that exact thing that they're desiring. But for them to do that, they have to first face up to their programming and have the courage and confidence to move through that. Just the same as a man has to have the courage and confidence to move through his fear and doubt of what it is to be a man in the modern world, to go and approach a woman and to be vulnerable and to face, you know, humiliation or rejection or fear or not being seen for who he is. So I just thought that was a really interesting observation, and some really interesting conversation came out of that. And I think it was actually it was a healing experience for women to watch you on a video being present, talking about how to be a sexual man. So in a way, like that was also validating, like this whole thing that we're talking about in that particular context of understanding that, you know, women want to be connected to that. And they need to be supported and they need to be nurtured and sometimes they need appropriate levels of communication and education to be able to receive that real power of what it is to be a woman and what it is to interact with a powerful man. But having said that, I know you just before you were saying this really beautiful thing before we started this recording, and you said that basically like you will tend to attract the equivalent, you know, vibrational reflections of yourself to a degree. And once again, that sounds like a new agey thing. It's like, you know, it sounds like, oh yeah, that's kind of bullshit. Like, of course, if I'm just going to go out and approach heaps of girls, why would that be the case? But, you know, the fact is that we tend to move towards and find attraction with people that we have commonality with. And the primary level of commonality that we feel with people is vibrational, you know, it's like literally like how we feel in their presence, basically. And then everything starts to build upon that. And you know it, and I know it. It's like when you get your vibe really going and you feel really clear and strong in your core, you can almost say anything or say nothing and still have a massive impact on a woman opening and feeling that presence come into her field.
Sure do.
So I just wanted to wrap it up on that bit before we move into the next section of just really acknowledging that every woman's a goddess and that you can pull her into her goddessness by stepping into your masculine core, by acknowledging and connecting with your godliness, if you will. And when we say that, we're not talking about like some kind of religious dogmatic version of gods and goddesses or some kind of weird, like, you know, esoteric idea. What we're talking about is very practical connection to, like what I said before, those principles of integrity, which we'll go into how you actually do that in a moment and give some guys some insights into what that looks like. So yeah, remember that you can open women when you get into that state, and also remember that in another paradox to that, it's not always your responsibility to open women either. Like, you're free as a powerful man to recognize that sometimes it's not worth the time and the energy and investment to try and turn, you know, a princess into a goddess, because if she's so invested in being a princess and she really wants to do that and that's her path at that time, then sometimes you really just have to see that and acknowledge that and understand that, and maybe you choose to be friends with her, maybe you choose to have her in your orbit to some degree, but you can also choose to not have her in your presence and then focus on other things that are of primary importance. And in a way, that is a little bit of a flipping of the game to a degree, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even like using the word game, but it turns you into the center of the scenario. It turns you into the lead character in your reality and puts you in a position of choice and authority and empowerment when it comes to social interaction and creating attraction and relationships in your life. And just one quick thing, because I've got so much stuff to say, is like when you're in that presence and that power, when you really look at it, it isn't driven by women. And you said that too as well. It's like a lot of guys come to this transformational process being driven by women, being driven by this external need for validation. And that's totally valid, and there is a point and a place in a journey where that is a typical entry point.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole experience goes to a completely different level once a guy recognizes that he's connecting and operating from his higher purpose and meaning in life that embraces and includes women but goes beyond women. And there are many powerful men that also choose to be independent and not have relationships with women for different reasons. And there are many men that choose to have periods of having intense relationships and then having periods of solitude or single periods. And we talked about that quickly too before, in terms of that's very healthy to go through those cycles of evolution as an independent man, and then integration and then union with the feminine, whether that be multiple relationships or a primary partner relationship or whatever it is that is healthy and honest for you at that time. So that's basically just wanted to bring into that section. But I don't know if you want to reflect on that at all. But otherwise we'll move on to what is presence and how do we start to connect with it.
Just one more thing before we leave the last point.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the girls, they not being able to find men who can be assertive, who can lead, who can basically show the woman and bring her into her place of love. That's actually what she wants. She just wants to feel deeper. That's actually what the girl is saying. So the girl can say all these other things like he's not leading and stuff like that. All she means is that he's not taking me deeper into my love like I'm yearning for. That's what she's saying. So, and when she's saying that, it really challenges men in a way that I like that she's doing. And that challenge is to consistently open. That's what it is. It's just that and she's actually to a large extent attracting men like that because you always attract your reciprocal, always. So it's probably a part of her that's more clear than the guys that she's talking to. So another way, so that's a part of like the feminine growing, because there's actually masculine and feminine growth. The feminine growth is to allow herself to be taken and not have to put so many rules and things on a man to be able to do that, because a man actually falls into that. A man can fall into that after the woman has falling into hers, because you always attract your reciprocal. So if she's attracting guys who are wimpy, that basically means she's more clear inside of herself than the guy is. That means that she's going to attract the guys who are wimpy. That's what it means. But also with that means that she can't attract low level guys anymore. That's what it means as well. So the only guys she can attract, and this is for men, all the men who are listening, the only men that these women can attract who are like, I wish men would just lead. If a woman is in that place like that, that means that she's probably happy by herself. She just wants to go deeper into her love. So that means she can only attract a man who's more clear in his life than she is in hers. That's the only man she can attract. So that, of course, leaves her with a small, that leaves her with a small percentage of men in the world, because women are moving very rapid and men are moving slow as far as like that part of themselves. Yes. So the fact that women are taking on the masculine energy and doing all these things, and they can provide for themselves and things, they're going to need somebody who's at the high level that we're on, because it's only men that are like us who can understand and be able to take them deeper than they already are. So the woman that I told you that I slept with a few days ago, she is 31 years old and she's an accountant. But she's a very happy woman by herself. But let's say that I wasn't clear in my purpose in life, she would only pull out the parts of myself that are feminine. because she is a woman that has, she's on, she's like, I do this job, I go there, and she's like in that logical place all day, and she's waiting for a release. So basically, any woman that's in a logical place all day, she's going to be waiting for the release into her love, no matter what. I don't care who she is. If she has a feminine sexual essence, she will be yearning for that. She will be yearning for it. So that in itself challenges men, and we challenge men as well to be well-rounded men. You can't be a masculine partner if you don't know your purpose in life. Because you'll keep drawing out of that girl the masculine part of her if you don't know your purpose. Because then you are remaining the feminine and she's remaining the masculine. And that's why it still works, of course, because there's still that sexual energy between masculine and feminine poles. But if you want to be a man in this world, like a man on his mission, you have to make sure your mission is first, and then your woman can then feel the power of you. She can feel the power of a man who has purpose in life. The men who have purpose in life, that's why millionaires attract women, because they have a clear purpose in life. Now, some of them, of course, they attract women with money, but women are just drawn with men who are powerful because that man has a clear direction in life he's moving toward, and she can sense power when she's around him. And that brings her into her feminine when she's around him, just in his presence.
So just to quickly add, it's oftentimes that's oftentimes that purpose and that structure of being a builder and being an architect that attracts the millions into their lives as well.
Yes.
So in a way, the money is often a side effect of an alignment inside the guy. It doesn't necessarily mean that, if you're a millionaire, you're an aligned guy, but it's often a manifestation of a strong sense of purpose and commitment to a structure that's moving somewhere.
It sure is. And the money actually becomes a bonus to the girl. It's not like the girl sees the money and goes, oh my God, like that, although a lot of girls do, but the thing is that as we look out into society, the people who do have a lot of money, a lot of times they have to do a lot to get there. And girls are linking up that man as being a high value man, because she just like innately, she almost feels that he is not some low level guy who's just going through life just, I want to go, how about we do this? Oh, is that all right? He's a guy that's like, I had to do stuff to get here. And the girl is like, oh my God. So it's like, she can feel the sense of his power almost without her even knowing him. Because now, of course, we're not talking about the superficial women who just want money. We're talking about the women who, and a lot of women, she has a feminine sexual essence. She just because of the way he walks, the way he talks is very different than other men. That is another thing that hits a woman as well. So another time we can get into what it is I feel that draws a woman to a man without her even knowing him, by the way he walks, he talks, the way he chooses, the way he projects his way into the world, the way that he opens as he walks, and things like that. We can talk about that another day, because I definitely want to get into feel his presence, but that's what I just wanted to reiterate, that of women being able to attract their reciprocal, and women learning as well, because a lot of times when we're talking about this, we're always talking about men, but it's actually a good thing to talk about feminine as well, and how some feminine won't match you, and how some women won't. They're not, like you said, they're not worth the time and energy. But then at the same time, what women are really yearning for, they're not really yearning for it's of course it's the sex, but it's much deeper than where sex will take them. That's where it is. That's what they're yearning for. Where sex will take them. And guys are coming into the seduction community, just stopping at the sex part and not knowing that it's actually the deeper part of what sex is taking the woman to. That's going to make the woman go, he's different, or something like that, or I love him. So, and taking a woman to those places is very, very. It takes practice for a man, because to believe you're going to do that with just a few women, you're out of your mind, because you're going to have to consistently learn how to do that. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think just a little bit of a qualifier there to because I think having a man on a mission and a purpose is really important. But like with all things, it has to be a counterbalance. Like basically a guy needs to also be aware and empathetic to his inner feminine aspect as well, because like a hyper masculine guy can manifest as basically like sharp and hard and cold and arrogant,
rigid, very rigid.
Yeah, rigid and destructive too. Yeah. So, and in many ways, like that is self-destructive. Just the same as a woman who's too strictly feminine becomes passive and kind of like too soft and too lost in wishy-washiness or too lost in emotional drama on a consistent basis. So there needs to be like a balance between those masculine and feminine energies. And of course, we're greatly generalizing here just for the convenience of having this conversation. Ultimately, it's very difficult to compartmentalize these concepts of masculine and feminine into very black and white categories.
Yeah.
But having said that, those containers of those words, masculine and feminine, are representations of energetic dynamics and energetic relationships and psychological and emotional structures that exist inside the human psyche, and also beyond the human psyche into like transpersonal realms. Like we could say something like, like you said before, like matter is feminine and consciousness is masculine. So, but what does that mean? Like there's no penis in consciousness, there's no vagina in matter, but it's not about genitalia or sexuality per se. It's about the dynamic of the polarity of the nature of those two things and how they interact. And on a scale of similarities, consciousness resembles the masculine tendencies and traits more than matter does, and matter represents more of the feminine traits and capacities than consciousness does. So I think it's very useful to recognize that and to start to understand what is this label of masculine and this label of feminine, and how can looking at the world through these frameworks of these containers of basically, like I said, a mythology, or it's a language, it's kind of like a higher level language that can pull a lot of these dynamics apart and make a lot of sense. So yeah, and just to really, I guess, to round that off, I think it's important to note for guys that yes, have a mission and a purpose, and definitely connect with something bigger than yourself that is driving you and moving you forward, because that will become tremendously attractive. At the same time, remember to be humble and remember to be empathetic to the rest of the world around you, and remember to support and acknowledge the world around you as well. So we've talked about some really good points there, and just for convenience of the listener, I think we'll round this call off and then we'll have a part two. But so just remember, guys, that there's some really important points. Like these are really big golden ideas, and even if they don't make a lot of sense initially when you're first coming into it, that these are the kinds of things that are like planting seeds, and they will have big effects on your relationship to women and how you're moving through the world and growing as a man, the deeper that you understand what these frameworks are talking about. So we're going to move on to a part two, and in part two we're really going to cover a lot more of the dynamics and specifics of the tech, the technology of what it means to be present, what it means to be a man, what it means to relate to the feminine, and also maybe a bit about how the feminine operates. And yeah, that would be really good. So thanks for that first section, man. As always, fucking awesome. And if you're just going to watch this section, then make sure you subscribe to more and come back and check out the other section later, because there's going to be nothing but pure gold coming out. And you guys need this stuff, because the world needs more high-powered, full-loving, open Jedi men in the world on a mission, creating a better world.
We do, man. See you guys in part two.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching the video. If you're interested in learning more about Inner Game and the Inner Game coaching work that I do, please click subscribe and sign up for an inquiry form, and I'll personally get in contact with you to tell you more about the work that I do. Alternatively, you can go to innergamelifecoaching.com and check out my site there. I have a great range of audios available, as well as some general information that will help you understand the process. See you guys in the next video. Good luck, and may all your dreams come true.